The horror genre. A theme I truly do love, and I think it is the best genre there is, which is the most flexible in terms of storytelling potential. However, despite its flexibility, it's seen, in my opinion, very limited uses within gaming, especially at higher budgets. Now, horror for me in games has been okay. Last year we got some amazing horror games, Alan Wake 2 specifically, an actual good piece of media that uses horror to its full potential. And there are plenty of games out there that I could list for ages that do use horror effectively. Horror to me is not about being scared, but being made to feel uncomfortable due to something that's gross or something that is just generally scary. But I think this is something that a lot of horror games do sort of miss the mark with. However, horror is mostly seen as the funny, scary games YouTubers play and scream at. Now, horror to me isn't about being scared and jump scared constantly, as very loud noises will just make you flinch. And I know this is a big reason that people don't like the horror genre in general, and I think it's a massive shame, as the horror genre is, in general, so vast and varied with so many games falling within it. Just look at all these games here. They're all bangers and they're all great. So this Halloween, or spooky season I guess, I decided I wanted to find a new horror game to not only play, but to really dig into and explore. Now it took me a while to find the game that I wanted to do. However, I did have to dig through quite a lot of shit and crap on the Steam store, losing my first pick of game for this video due to unforeseen circumstances, but I eventually landed on Mouthwashing is a psychological horror heavily inspired and stylized after PS1 games, more specifically Silent Hill and the older Resident Evil games 1, 2 and 3. Developed by Wrong Organ and published by Critical Reflex, they published the funny Buckshot Roulette game.
For you. It's over. It's over for you. It's over. It's over for you. Wait. What?
Now, Wrong Organ had a previous game called How Fish is Made, another horror game which I may cover another time, but they've had some experience in this genre, and the team consists of I think 8 employees in total to actually make this game. It isn't like publicly stated anywhere, and if you look at the credits of the game, it's a bit confusing, but I think it's 8 employees because that's what's on their LinkedIn, so I'm guessing that's what's, you know, at the studio. But let's just say it was made by a small studio, and everyone here deserves their praise. Also, massive story spoilers ahead. I really do recommend playing this game for yourself and supporting the devs that made this game, as personally, I do want to see more shit made like this. But if you're still here, let's dive into the game now. Opening the game, we are treated to a small text scroll, Star Wars style, giving us some background information on the game's setting and world. We are aboard the Pony Express long-haul space freighter called the Tulpa. So, we're part of a company called Pony Express, and we're on a space freighter, displaying that the world has advanced to space travel, and we're on board a ship called the Tulpa. Okay, we have a crew of 5 people, really small for a big sort of space freighting company, I guess. Planned shipment duration of 382 days, and we've been on this transit for 147 days, so we're just under halfway through the actual haul, I guess. We have 235 days left on the delivery. Should have picked Royal Mail and get that next day delivery, if you want my opinion, as this is quite a long duration to be posting something with. And then, a bit of an ominous message. I hope this hurts. Straight away, I love this entire text scroll. Some people aren't fans of them, but I love how simple and just sort of to the point this text scroll is. It really tells you what the setting is, how many people there are, so you know exactly. So when the horror starts to push in and you start getting these more creepy moments, you know how many people are meant to be on the ship. So you start asking questions of, is there someone else here? And I really like that they tell you straight away there's only meant to be 5 people on the ship. Also, giving us names of companies and stuff does do a good bit of world building, and I just love that. I love when these indie horror games really immerse you in their worlds and really bring you in. So honestly, it's an amazing opening. But what's gonna hurt? We then get this really cool transition where it cuts to 0 days before the crash. So today, the ship is going to crash, and I really like this. The game has a fixed narrative. There's no way you can change it, and we are there to just experience it. There's nothing you can do to prevent the crash, as these characters are their own characters. They have their own motives and desire to do things.
An orbital body has been detected 21 AU ahead of the vessel. Please make manual correction 1.4 degrees leftwards to avoid impact with unknown mass.
Now, with this information, if you're sane enough, you will think to fix the problem. So you'll move your mouse over to the steering apparatus and you'll click it. However, you only have 2 options. To either steer right into, on screen, the asteroid that we are approaching, or to leave. So there's only really one option to progress the game, to steer right.
Extreme warning. direct collision with orbital body 1.9 AU away. Engaging autopilot to recorrect vessel. Advise crew to take up emergency positions. 4,000 credits docked from crew pay package for failure of navigational staff.
Now to me, this instantly told me that we are not in control of whoever this character actually is. They have their own plan of what they are doing, and we're just along for the ride, which I really love when games do this, because a lot of people get too immersed in games and believe themselves as the characters and they don't agree with what the character's doing. But the devs here want to tell a story, and this is this character's story. We're just here to experience it, as I said. Now we can sort of back away from the console and we can start exploring the cockpit a bit. Now there isn't actually a lot in this cockpit. There's a little printer, a utility cupboard, but we can actually open the cupboard and we'll find an override key, which for the autopilot, which we can use eventually, some rope, a generator, cups, tape and other bits and bobs, and an employee key card for someone called Anya. This is our first introduction to another character and our first name in the entire game, Anya, and I think that's a very smart way to do it. Yes, this is kind of meant to be an Easter egg, but I think actually putting her name here first kind of highlights her as a more important character to me and someone to keep your eye on, as she's the first one you technically see. Inspecting the key that you found, it says Captain Only, Emergency Cockpit Console Override Key. So are we the captain of this ship? Because we have access to this key. We now take the key and insert it into the override unlock to take back control from the autopilot and redirect back into the asteroid. With the override performed, the door to the cockpit now opens and we can now leave the actual cockpit itself into a hallway. Now almost immediately I felt completely uncomfortable with this game. The slightly misplaced non-straight posters are extremely off-putting to me. A big company that has the capability of doing space freighting as a genuine business that is viable, they wouldn't just put a poster up lazily. They would perfectly straighten that thing out. And if there were posters, it's because they're very proud of their own company. I love this game's lighting and style. The PS1 visuals mixed with the super nice lighting that makes it genuinely hard to see at times, it actually makes it so much more immersive and fun to actually experience. As you keep proceeding through these hallways, things get weirder and weirder and weirder, with more posters placed on top of posters, upside down, back to back, or flickering lights start to appear, and then you're met for lockdown with the door in front of you being completely locked. With no choice, you have to turn back, and eventually you'll meet this cute little guy. This is Polly, and he's the mascot of Pony Express. Now, when I first saw this, I got a little creeped out, and it's really good. There's no noise, there's no jump scare, it's just there. It's done to make you feel uncomfortable, which I think is done so effectively. The only noises that you can hear are the sounds of your feet and flickering lights, and I love this. So with the horse blocking our way, we have to turn back around, and it starts to get even more intense. Sparks flying out of wires, steam pipes bursting, and you'll meet a second Polly this time, but a bit disfigured with more limbs and another head. You'll also start to hear the sound of a crying baby in the background, and this is when I started asking some questions. Is there a baby on this ship, or is it just here to creep us out? I really do like this because it starts making you ask questions about the setting and also what's on the ship and what is this Polly thing that seems to be following us. Is it making the noises, or is it something else that's making the noises? It's just a very cool way to do horror very subtly, in my opinion, with such a generic noise of a baby crying, but it doesn't make sense in the setting and what we're currently seeing, which I think is done so effectively here. But again, you will not be able to progress, so you'll have to turn back around and move again. And it gets even worse. Flashing red lights, more noises, and eventually you'll meet another dead end, where Polly will do something to you when you turn around, but it fades to white. And we jump forward 2 months after the crash. I love this opening. We get this really cool setup of someone trying to crash the actual ship, with our best guess being, at the moment, the captain, and why he did it. Well, this horse thing seems to be doing something to the people here, so maybe that's why. Maybe this is like a monster sort of thing and we're trying to stop it from harming others, and that's why we crashed the ship. Okay, 2 months after the crash, we meet 4 of the 5 crew aboard the Tulpa. First is Jimmy, the character we are seeing the world through at the moment. Anyone else would do the same thing. Swansea, a rather tubby man on the older side of his life, getting towards the end of his professional life as a mechanic.
We ain't touching the damn cargo. Holds on lockdown for a reason. You don't think worse than dying slowly? But not getting paid.
Anya, a younger woman who is assigned to be the medic on board the Tulpa.
But it could be something useful, I think.
Could be what? Hopes, dreams, marzipan? Ah!
You don't have to.
If it helps us survive, it's worth it. Daisuke, the youngest of the crew, who is training as an intern to become a mechanic underneath Swansea.
Man, Pony Express bosses really aren't chill at all, huh? Come on, a quick look won't hurt.
How exactly is this group therapy committee planning on getting in there?
Oh, right here, boss. You're looking at the meanest swing of the regional junior baseball team. Straight up nearly corked a kid once. I can take that utility axe and...
You goddamn born fully corked.
That's enough, Swansea. There has to be an in case of emergency way inside.
If I remember correctly, from the safety protocols, the doors should have an alternate access code.
Maybe he'll sing you the blues too.
We don't need him if we find the scanner. Get the code and open the hold. For better or worse, I'm captain now. I'll figure it out.
Right on.
So from this conversation, we can gather quite a bit about each of the characters that we have here. Daisuke, he's obviously very immature and very young in his life, starting the job as an intern, and he just sort of takes the life as it goes, you know? A guy that you could definitely sit around and just sort of shoot the shit with on like a random weekend. That's the kind of guy Daisuke is. Swansea is a bit of an old head, you know, a bit sort of mean at times and a bit jabby, but he seems nice overall and is someone that you'd sit down at a pub with and share a pint with. Anya is a soft-spoken girl that does seem to lack a lot of confidence, but she doesn't seem to be mean or anything. She just seems to be a bit reserved and a bit unconfident in herself. And Jimmy, someone that is very authoritative. He very clearly is the one taking charge of the group currently, but he isn't the actual captain. He does say that. He says that he is the captain now, meaning that someone was captain before him. So we know that he's not the captain. So the person from the intro who most likely is the captain is not Jimmy. We haven't met the captain yet then, that means, because if he's saying that he's the captain now, it means none of the other people are captain either. So where's the captain? Well, it sounds like something did happen to him. But first we have to find the codex scanner, but you can inspect the ship, looking around and seeing all the different things in the ship and the damage that has been caused by the crash. You see this foam layered everywhere that, when inspecting it, does say that it was deployed when the ship crashed, allowing us to get some sort of insight into the technology of the world. That they have a system in place where if a ship is compromised, there is a foam that can be deployed to save the ship from being completely destroyed. Also, we can look around and, as I said, Poly Express seem very proud of their company with so many different things like posters and even a whole statue of the Poly that we saw in the intro, which we can interact with. In addition to this, a small kitchen and a sort of living area, which it looks very nice and very stylized. I love the graphics of this game, and the overall environment is very simple and very homely feeling. Also, a beautiful screen of a nice sunset. It looks gorgeous, and I love the filter that the game has, like the CRT look. It looks chef's kiss. I love the look of it. The three characters we meet are also scattered about and we can speak to them, and they can give some more insight into their characters. Looks like it'll be soup again for dinner. You want a rock, paper, scissors for the chicken noodle? How much food do we have left?
I'd say like 4 months-ish.
Less than the remaining air supply, but we can make it last in theory. We'll be starting to poke new holes in our belts pretty soon to pull that off.
Man, my mum will straight up stuff me when I get back. I look like Swansea. We'll have a rad story to tell though. They might even write articles about us. We could be on TV.
It'll impress the ladies too.
Hell yeah.
The real problem is us running out of toilet paper. Fatal stuff, man.
We should leave that part out of the press.
This conversation gives very good insight into Daisuke as a character. He's someone that is always looking on the bright side and is a person that is always positive despite the situation, always talking about how good something is, displayed by even them potentially being in mortal danger as they have been stranded for 2 months with only 4 months of food left. He still talks about being on the news and how cool it would be for him. Daisuke is a person who still has that light of desire and drive in their life in order to achieve something. Very characteristic of a young man in a brand new industry who has sort of the bright, ideas of what they want their life to be and sort of all these hopes and dreams. And this is antithesis with Swansea. Has Swansea been like this towards you for the whole internship?
That's just how he is, man. Didn't want a spud like me following him around for the entire year.
This isn't really the internship experience anyone had in mind.
Don't let him push you around too much. His bark is worse than his bite. He may be cranky, but he is a legit wizard of a mechanic. I was like, you rock. So this is what years and years and years and years of experience look like.
I'm sure he appreciated that. So again, this conversation gives even further insight into not only Daisuke, but also his relationship with Swansea, the older mechanic aboard the Tulpa. Daisuke heavily looks up to Swansea. He is his senior and represents the peak of his profession as a mechanic for a spacecraft. Swansea, as stated by Daisuke, is a wizard of mechanics and has been in his profession for countless years and is approaching his own retirement from the company.
Did you find the scanner thing yet? I'd ask Anya about it. She's been reading the safety manual like a Bible since the crash.
And with this last bit of dialogue we get from Daisuke, it tells us that we should move on and gives us an insight into Anya a little bit. As well, that she is a bit of a look everything up online person to try fix something, who is probably anxious about a lot of things in life and doesn't have a lot of self-confidence to actually fix it herself, reflecting her desire to keep rereading the manual even though she's already read it all and she hasn't found her answers in it, but she just needs to find the answer from somewhere else and she doesn't want to figure it out herself. She needs basically someone else or something else to tell her what to do to fix it, and shows that she isn't a strong leader and she's not that leader type of character. Now, before we talk to Anya, we can see Swansea outside the maintenance door.
Ain't you supposed to be figuring out the great cargo robbery?
Why are you standing out here?
None of your goddamn business.
Everything is my business now because of Curly. I don't want to keep having this conversation.
Right, Capitano. I'm working. Blue-collar fools can't afford to stop working, even when the machine does. Go figure. And before you start, I'm taking my break. Don't you worry. I ain't going over my break allowance. Ah!
Working on what? How does it look in there?
It's a solid wall of foam. I'm trying to see if I can break it down enough to get something useful out. Any of my tools. If I breach that foam and break the air seal, it's lights out for all of us. I don't let anyone else mess around in there.
Even Daisuke? He's your intern. He's supposed to be helpful.
You think I'm letting that knucklehead in here after the crash roughed it up? Our so-called nurse nearly skewed her leg when the vent hatch was open during maintenance. And that was before the crash. I warned her, but it's in one ear and out the other. Then there's that teeny bopper, thinking only with his downstairs long nose, just like my useless kids back home. So no, I ain't letting anyone mess around in there.
Alright, Swansea, keep me updated.
Huh? Still here? Don't look at me. This is all you and that rickety elbow of a woman. Get your ass to medical. I figured it out with her.
Now, this conversation gives a great insight into Swansea, his thoughts about everyone. Swansea does not seem to like Jimmy, not even seeing him as a leader, and actually going against him at times, and almost mocking him in a way, calling him things like Capitano in a mocking gesture in the way I read it, and preventing him from entering the utility room due to the entire room apparently being compromised. He thinks Daisuke is a bit of an idiot, but doesn't badmouth him too much. Kind of just like, yeah, he's like an average young kid. He shouldn't really be here. And he doesn't seem to think Anya is very qualified for the job that she's in. I wonder why the only person that he doesn't actually badmouth is Curly. Potentially hinting at that him and Curly were relatively close, but Swansea seems to be, to me, a true Brexit geezer, beer gut and all. Now, moving on to medical, we can find Anya looking rather reserved with her arms wrapped around herself.
He doesn't want to keep still anymore.
What about the painkillers?
It just hurts him so much. I can't stand the noise.
You did make it through nursing school, right? Pony Express sure does know how to cut corners, if nothing else.
Oh, also, well, I was hoping you could help me with the captain.
Curly?
Right, sorry. With Curly's medication?
People have to be worth their titles. Don't you think, Nurse Anya?
Yeah, forget I asked.
I'll take care of it. This conversation, to me, I think says a lot. Swansea made it very clear he saw Anya as an unqualified individual that was not qualified to do her job as a nurse. And Jimmy directly asking her if she even passed medical school displays that Anya may actually lack the experience of this job. This is our first time meeting her, and already these characters are questioning her entire qualifications. It seems to me that she has a history of not being up to the task that she's being assigned as the medic here. Now, something interesting here happens between these two characters. Anya refers to Curly, the man on the bed that we see behind her, who looks rather familiar to me.
I survived because the fire inside burned brighter than the fire around me. I fell down into that dark chasm. The flame burned on and on.
As captain, but Jimmy straight away cuts her off to correct her that he is no longer captain. Now, initially, this may seem like a very small thing to point out, but I think it gives a good bit of character to not only Anya and the way that she sees the characters, but also Jimmy. Yes, technically due to Curly's actions that we believe he did and the current state he is even in, he isn't in a state to be captain. Does he really need to belittle Anya for a simple mistake as calling the person that was captain for half a year? Yes, he's not captain anymore, but is there really a need to cut her off and be like, no, he's not captain anymore? So I think it says a lot about Jimmy and that he's a bit petty about it. I think this shows Jimmy has a bit of an ego and he really wants the title of captain for himself. And he knows that he can use the power that he has gained from this situation to feel above others and make them do what he wants. He tried to do this with Swansea, but Swansea has a bit of a backbone and can kind of sort of jab back at him. Anya, though, she does not seem to have any sort of backbone whatever, and she will go along with whatever is said to her or potentially done to her because she just doesn't seem to have any sort of backbone to her. I think it's a very interesting way to show these characters very small character traits very quickly and easily. We can see that Jimmy has some sort of ego about him, that he wants to follow this title. He wants the title and he doesn't want anyone else having it, and he tries to basically force people into the way that he wants.
Are you gonna feed Curly his meds? He really suffers without them.
Yeah. His bandages are also looking wet.
I know. We're out of fresh ones.
This conversation then reinforces the actual danger that they are in, with them having completely run out of bandages to actually dress Curly with, showing that they are running out of supplies on the ship, and rather quickly as well. Now, with Anya making it very clear she isn't comfortable with giving Curly his meds, we have to give them to him. Painkillers, 10mg, oxycodone, extended release capsules, the good stuff. Now, giving Curly his meds, we are treated to the most horrific sounds I've heard in any video game. Hold still, yeah? I don't like this any more than you do. You know what they say, pain is how we know we're still living.
I can't bear to listen. Excuse me, sorry.
Finishing giving Curly his meds, we see Anya on the floor in the lounge. We don't have a whole lot of painkillers left, but you still want to keep...
Why did you think he did it?
Doesn't matter. What answers would make you feel any better?
I have to believe that our worst moments don't make us monsters, Jim. I have to, even in his case.
You tried to take us all down with him, Anya. The way I see it, there's two reasons to keep him alive at this point. I guess the important bit is that we all agree to it, for one reason or another.
I'm still feeling nauseous. I need a minute.
We found out the crew all agreed to keep Curly alive for one reason or another. Anya makes it clear that she wants to know why Curly did what he did, as she can't even hate him for what he did, as she doesn't want people to be defined by their worst actions. To me, this displays Anya as a pure-hearted character, even with someone who apparently put them in the situation where she will very likely die, but she can't feel any ill will towards him, even feeling sick due to the pain and suffering he is in. Now, Jimmy, he believes Curly is evil, believing that he doesn't need to know the reason he did what he did, he is just evil for it. And also, Anya calls Jimmy Jim, hinting at some sort of deeper relationship there, possibly be it friends or romantic, but nothing concrete that I can say yet. But there just is some sort of history there. Now, we can find the codex scanner in the cockpit, then meeting up with everyone just outside the cargo hold.
Well, get on with it. This is all you. I want it duly noted that I had no involvement with this.
What do you guys think we've been shipping? Maybe if it's spare parts, me and Swansea can repair the ship and we can get out of here.
Quit yapping.
Come on, open it. This is so exciting.
Lose your nerve, Jimbo?
Are we doing the right thing? Let it be medicine, food, or water.
Now, actually opening the door with the code scanner and entering the cargo hold, we now go back to 7 days before the crash, seated in the medical bay.
Are you listening?
Yeah. Damn, I'm so sorry. I couldn't sleep again, but I passed the psych eval.
Well, you gave the same answers as last time. I do wish you'd open up a little more, Captain. These evaluations aren't just about you.
As long as I'm fit to fly in your eyes, Anya.
Oh, stop it. Guess that means I have only one more eval left to do.
Jimmy?
He asks if I do these things for fun. Then I have to make a report with things like, I have found myself sexually excited at the sight of cartoon horses.
Well, I could take it off your hands.
Really?
I've known him for a long time. He won't try any bullshit with me.
I suppose you are the captain.
I am the captain.
Thank you. What a relief. Oh, before I forget, Swansea asked me to give you this. Not sure what it means, but sounds like fun. Good luck, Captain.
This to me tells me that Curly is someone who does have authority over other people naturally. Or he is actually a good captain.
and people believe he should be captain and want to follow him. Now, Anya also seems to be uncomfortable around Jimmy as well, basically striking the initial guess of some sort of friendship / relationship between the two earlier on, with Jimmy appearing to be rather immature, with him not taking psych evaluations very seriously at all, and she actually seems to be happy when Curly offers to take the psych eval for Jimmy off of her plate. I wonder why that is. In addition to this, she actually seems to like and care for Curly quite a lot, with a very light, and I mean light, amount of flirting between the two. Like, it is almost non-existent, but there is one line there. This highlights why Anya cannot believe he crashed for no reason. From the first meeting we have with Curly and actually him speaking to another character, he seems to be a good man overall. Psychologically, he is fit to fly and even gets along with the most reserved member of the group. But what about the loudest member? Before meeting Swansea, we run into Jimmy. And Pony Express said they don't provide onboard entertainment. Feels like there's always something broken in that room. Toolpath's starting to show her age. Fast inspection, right? Shouldn't be an issue. Plus, they added Daisuke last minute. Didn't account that there'd be 5 of us now. I really should have made a bigger stink about that. This shows that Jimmy is a bit of a jokester, not taking anything really seriously at all, which links back to his behaviour with the psych eval, as when we enter the next room we see what he's laughing about. But you should intervene. Or we could just close the door. Your call. Now, actually inspecting the utility room, we see Swansea and Daisuke in a rather large amount of the foam that we saw earlier in the lounge area, which, stated earlier, deploys to prevent the vacuum of space compromising the ship's hull, and above Daisuke, an open vent, which most likely we can assume that he was inside, fell out of, and the foam deployed. Well, I can see the issue.
The kid was brought on just to make me suffer. Into my ass.
I was just trying to fix the vent. How did that trigger the emergency foam?
Because you're talented in all the wrong ways. I would have dealt with this, but only you can unlock the axe case. Every goddamn thing has to go through you.
I'll handle it. Hang in there, Daisuke. This gives a very rather interesting look into Pony Express as a company, where they have made it so that every little action on the ship needs the captain to authorize said action. Even the action of getting a fire axe, well, yes, it could be used as a weapon if someone wanted to. At times, a fire axe, or as it's called in the game, the utility axe, is a key tool that can be used for a lot of different things. Name in point, destroying the foam if it accidentally deploys in the ship. And it could mean that someone could lose their life because the captain can't authorize said action. And we see that with Daisuke. If the captain was unavailable, he would be stuck in the foam for however long until the captain came back. So Curly needs to go get the axe in order to free Daisuke now from the foam. Now, if we talk to Swansea again, he says,
back in my day, we didn't have to go through a dog and a pony show for every little thing. Might as well put a cutlery behind a lock.
Again, highlighting how long Swansea has actually been in this profession, as he has seen it change so much from when he started. Actually retrieving the standard issue utility axe, we can now free Daisuke.
Youch!
Oof, strong stuff, huh?
Get it through your goddamn skull. That vent is strictly off limits. Fully fucking collapsed inside. You looking to get impaled, electrocuted, and cooked?
Yeah, but, like, you can't fit in there to fix it, right? So, I can totally handle it.
Captain, give me the axe.
Swansea, this could have damaged the pods. You can't let something like this happen again.
Yeah, I got it. Loud and clear.
Keep the axe until you've cleaned this all up, yeah? So as we can see, Daisuke is a bit of a klutz, and we can now understand why Swansea says what he says about Daisuke. And it does show that the two are close in a way, almost like sort of a father-son sort of relationship. With Daisuke cracking some jokes at Swansea about his weight, Swansea taking it quite well on the chin, and not getting angry at him like you would expect some people to. He does just sort of take it in stride and moves along with life, which I think does show that the two do actually like each other, and Swansea sort of has a special way of sort of bonding with people. I take it Anya diagnosed you of being sane then? Just off center, but it's what keeps me on my toes. I said I'd do yours. I want to hear all about them cartoon horses. Is that something you were born with, or a recent development? Alright, shut up. Let's go to the cockpit. So now we have to go to the cockpit to do Jimmy's psych evaluation. So as we're walking along, hold on, this doesn't seem like the way to the cockpit like last time. Now for the part that really did sell me on this game overall. An actual psychotic episode or mental break. I don't really know what to call these. I'm just going to call them episodes. We get our first one. We walk down a very long staircase and go to a drop. And once we drop off this like sheer drop, we find ourselves in what appears to be a lake of blood or just a red lake. And when you look up, you see a very gorgeous skybox in the air. But then screaming starts to come in. I hated this because when you're playing the game, there's a pretty significant duration of just silence when you're running around this lake. And when you have a pretty good headset and you're playing it at 2 in the morning, yeah, a random scream like that, which does stick out very clearly and does sound like it's behind you, especially with 7.1 surround sound, it almost made me shit myself. And it keeps getting louder and louder, and then shit just starts to get a bit crazy, I guess, with ladders and screens appearing everywhere, and it gets worse and worse and worse. But eventually the sun itself would engulf the entire area. And fade to white, with only a very far distant door being left. Approaching the door, it leads to the cockpit, which we can now do Jimmy's psych evaluation. You can't just make something up for this. Wait. Pause. What was the episode and who was it that actually had it? This is a question that I had straight away, and I think a lot of people will be asking now. From what we've been being shown, we've basically been told that Curly is perfectly sane, but from our point of view, it seemed that this was Curly having this sort of episode and having really bad hallucinations and almost a mental break. And this could be reinforced earlier with Curly saying that he was slightly off center, indicating that he could potentially be mentally unstable, and with him repeating the same answers he did last time could show that he is trying to hide his problems. And if we were to link it back to the beginning of the game, if Curly was the one in the cockpit that crashed the ship, it would link to that sort of weird horse in the hallways and the weird visions that we were having, linking the two in a really cool way in storytelling and creating a good theory and actually strengthening the theory itself that Curly was the one to the ship. But I still don't think there's enough here to actually 100% say it was Curly that did it. From all we've seen, Curly is a completely sane individual and he hasn't done anything drastic yet. And from the character that we've built up and all the other characters, they seem to like him, and it seems to be completely unreasonable for him to even want to crash the ship. So I guess we have to keep going. It's not like these evals ever go anywhere when we get back. We'll power through it. Have you been able to complete your mandated tasks as co-pilot efficiently and to your fullest capacity? Let's see. I'll just put good for that one. That's all of them done. How are things otherwise? Off the record. I like it. We're in control here. Didn't think you'd ever take to being a freighter pilot as well as you have, or with how you struggled back on Earth. Sure, all I ever hear is how great of a leader you are. Honestly, it's kind of annoying. So what is it? How come it always seems like you're standing on the edge of a bridge with your feet in cement? Lately, I've been thinking, is this enough? Should I just stay here because I've been successful at it? A good long-haul freighter captain? And that's bad? That's what I'm saying. It's not, but it's terrifying. I think, am I figured out? Is this all I'll ever be? Or do I take the risk and try something new, even if I'm bad at it? I guess I get it. You've reached the highest rung on this ladder. Now you're thinking you might be on the wrong ladder altogether. Still a long way down from the top, no matter how you look at it. While I'm still climbing and climbing. Something like that. But hey, you know I believe in you. Here, on Earth, doesn't matter. Ha! You should write that on the psyche val.
Message incoming.
Oh no, the big guys themselves. Guess that's my cue. I'll see you later. Alright, let's pause. This entire conversation, in my opinion, completely threw the spanner in the theory that it was Curly. That he was the one that actually was sort of mentally insane here. This entire conversation is very interesting to me. From the start of the game, we know that someone crashed the ship. And the only two people that are actually capable of crashing the ship are Curly, the captain of the ship, and Jimmy, the co-pilot of the ship. And this conversation gives them both a reason to have done it. Curly seems to be upset with his current life, not knowing his direction and where he wants to actually be in life. And Jimmy seems to have been a failure on Earth and does not want to return there. And it seems that Curly actually gave him the chance to be a co-pilot and actually took a chance on him out of the kindness of his own heart. But still, the current belief that Curly is the one that crashed the ship starts to weaken here. We are assuming that Curly just had an episode, but with him saying that he has the desire to change his life and wants to actually do something drastic to completely spice his life up, I think suggests that he wouldn't want to kill himself or kill everyone on the ship. To me, it seems that he does just want to leave very carefully, and he has said that he's had a very good life. This is not the way someone would talk if they regretted their life and they wanted it to end. Maybe there must be a reason then. Alright, let's continue. Now actually trying to go to the printer that we saw in the cockpit earlier and trying to read the letter. It's
Time for another episode. Yeah, the game gets pretty hard pretty fast, and we're already on our second episode. Now, the jumbled letters on screen, if you can read it, I know some people might struggle with this, but it does spell out take responsibility. Interesting. But who needs to take said responsibility? Well, let's see. We're in the cargo room, and it's very, very dark. And in the distance is a small light. Approaching it, hey look, it's the TV from the intro. Very nice. Now, actually watching it, it has some funny promotional cartoons, sort of the 50s sort of style, I guess, sort of the old Betty Boop, Popeye sort of style, with color, of course, about the job that we are currently in. And if you change the program, we have something about a black hole and a man growing very large as well. Now, all these, to me, look like something that a person who would be employed by Pony Express, they would have to watch. They would have to watch, you know, the benefits and the actual job that they get, the dangers of the job, and, you know, some other promotional material as well. The first promotional material we see talks about things like holidays, employee benefits, what job they'll be doing, and what the company wants their employees to live like. The second video, as I said, the black hole, shows the danger of the job, as black holes would be a serious issue in deep space freighting, as what if you were to just fly straight into one? It'd be a bit dangerous. And if you change it again after the one where the man grows really in their closet, and a commercial for Dragon Breath mouthwash. Hey look, the title of the game.
Dragon Breath presents a revolutionary new dental hygiene product. Brand new formula designed to kill bacteria and kill germs without leaving a bad taste. Dragon Breath X Mouthwash. All day fire fresh. Sold with your local dental hygiene specialist before, during, and after use of Dragon Breath X Mouthwash. Dragon Breath OO will not accept responsibility for any harm caused by use of this product.
And we cut back to the present with the contents of the cargo hold being revealed. It's all Dragon's Breath mouthwash. And I mean all of it. This is mouthwash? Unfucking believable. There's gotta be an ocean of this stuff in here. This room looks freaking endless. This is what they'd have 5 people holding for over a year? All of this? The mouthwash? Yes, I know, Jimmy. Crazy. The mouthwash represents the state of the world. Consumerism has become so large now that single products fill up entire space freighters just to fulfill the demand of the world for said product. Now, this cargo is also pretty worthless, and to me, makes the situation even more dire, and it kind of relates back to them. They, as workers, are worthless. They're not that important. Them transporting all this cargo, which is all just mouthwash, means their job is basically pointless. And yeah, that will be reinforced later on. Now, why is this cargo worthless? Well, not only because these thousands of bottles of mouthwash are worthless, but a company that can afford to ship this many mouthwash bottles in a single ship across the entire galaxy for over a year, is it really that much of a loss of money if this ship were to crash? This shipment would have to be commercially viable for them to even consider. So if they lost this shipment, it would be the equivalent as if an Amazon warehouse were to burn down. Yeah, it would sting a bit, but it wouldn't be that big of a deal. So I think that shows just how big this company is. Whatever company manufactures this mouthwash must be a very big player in the world, as this method of transportation is a worthwhile investment, showing how large their reach is or how stupid the human race has become, where transporting an entire ship full of mouthwash was seen as a good idea. The sugar content probably offsets any potential as a disinfectant.
Disinfectant? What are you? Let me see that. 14% ethanol? Ha!
I suppose it'll smell good at least.
You alright, kiddo? You can bet your ass on that.
What are you doing? Stop that. Now Swansea proceeds to do the most Brexit geezer thing in the world.
Woo-wee! Oh, shut up. I'm just an old codger taking care of his dental hygiene. You hear that? That sounds like 15 years of sobriety popping like a cyst. A glorious, magnificent, red-hot cyst. Good riddance and cheers. To Captain Curly. Here, here.
I guess anyone could seriously get blasted off this stuff. Yeah, and kill you in the process. This can't be real. There's no way.
Now, we can go out in style. Daisuke, come here. Anyone ever teach you how to drink like a man?
As I said, the mouthwash is useless, with its only perk being that it has a similar alcohol content to some red wines in the real world. Yes,
If you don't know, some mouthwashes do have alcohol and sugar in them, and they aren't bad sugars for your teeth. You just shouldn't really be swallowing them, especially if it has alcohol in it. And in real life, some mouthwashes can be as high as 26% alcohol, so this is very reasonable. The highest one I could find was a Listerine one, if you want to know, and I actually was surprised at how much alcohol was in it, because that is an insane amount. That is the same alcohol content as some weak gins and some fortified red wines. So yeah, pretty strong stuff. But these bottles of Dragon's Breath mouthwash are as strong as red wine, so it puts into perspective at how this would actually be sort of a nice thing to have and would actually be able to get them pretty drunk pretty fast, because red wine does get you pretty drunk pretty quick. Also, it's packed full of sugar, so it probably tastes pretty good as well. But now we go back to 6 days before the crash, with the objective to break the news from the letter we got from the prince earlier. Going to the lounge, we are treated to a surprise birthday party for Curly. Now, I know that I've been doing a lot of the dialogue and you've probably got a bit of a laugh out of it, but I'm not going to do all of the dialogue here. None of it really sticks out to me. Only one line. We only get one communal birthday party per trip, right? To me, this shows the company Pony Express is in not good financial places. These workers are on these ships for entire years, and they are only allowed to have one single birthday party in a year. A bit stingy, I think, and the workers aren't even doing a lot. Now, for the party, we have to make a cake, as we are the only one that have clearance to actually make said cake, due to us needing to get sweeteners, which you need the code scanner for. To get the code for it, apparently, according to Jimmy, people got violent over them. I guess anything nice is fought over on a freighter with limited supplies. Now, actually placing the cake on the table, everyone wants you to make a speech, but the report from earlier troubles Curly, and he tells everyone what it said. That's all it said on the report from management. We received the paycheck for this delivery. I don't know any more than that.
Pony Express finally kicking the bucket, huh? What a joke. We're the punchline.
I don't have any savings. They can't do this to us, right?
Pony Express was one of the last man crew freighting companies. The writing's been on the wall for a long time. When did they tell you? Earlier this week. I was instructed to wait until we're closer to the whole destination, but I can't keep something like this from you all. So I guess you got what you wanted, without the guilt. Jim, if I'd known, I can go back to my, how'd you put it, struggle of a life? Anya never got into medical school because she's, well, let's be real. And how many employment years has Swansea got left in him? Daisuke will be fine. Mummy and Daddy will have him covered. So there's that at least. But you, headed for bigger and better, right? I'm just working on my life being a place I don't have to fucking escape. That's what I was trying to tell you. Nothing more. We're the ones you're trying to escape. Leave the dirt behind now that your boots are clean. That's not what I meant. It is what you meant. You just couldn't frame it to yourself in a way that kept you as the hero. Abandon the crew to remain the model captain. Unbelievable.
What am I supposed to do?
Let's have some fucking cake, hmm? Props to the Twilight Cruise of the Tulpa. Props to our captain and his new prospects. Well, I guess let's eat some cake then. Now at this point, alarm bells started to ring in my head. Curly seems completely sound of mind here and isn't actually upset at what happened with Pony Express and is truly sorry to his co-workers, but Jimmy does not see it that way. For some reason, he blames Curly completely for something completely out of his control and basically gaslights him into believing that he himself is the problem and that he is responsible for his entire crew, which is not how life works. Yes, he should sort of be the one that sort of manages them on the ship, but outside of that, it's not his responsibility. It's the company's responsibility to actually make sure these workers get the benefits and are able to leave this job and get new employment effectively afterwards. It's not his fault. And this isn't something that Curly wanted. Curly wanted to make a better life for himself, and he did try to frame that to Jimmy, but Jimmy mistook what he said. Jimmy believes the reason he wants to leave is because of the people. The reason that Curly wants to leave his job is because he's reached the top of it. There's nowhere else for him to go, which is completely understandable. Many people in real life get trapped in jobs like this and they don't know where to go afterwards. They reach the top and they look down and it's a very long drop, but there's nowhere else for them to go upwards. So they feel stuck in life and they don't feel like they're progressing anywhere. I really do relate to this a lot. I personally haven't been in that place yet, but I do know a lot of people that will probably be there in their lives, and a lot of people live their entire lives at this point. And Curly has the courage to actually change it, which I think is very respectable and does show that he is of sound mind. But Jimmy frames it as if it was all orchestrated by Curly. We now skip back to 2 months after the crash, back to where we started. With us back playing as Jimmy, with us having to check in on Curly due to his screams awaking us from our slumber. With us not knowing if he's had his meds, we have to go find Anya to ask her. So we walk around the ship, finally we're in the cockpit with Swansea.
No, I understand completely. If that's how it has to be.
Oh, it's you.
Jimmy, not able to sleep either?
It's nighttime. Why are you talking this late? Anya, are you crying?
No, don't worry. I'm okay.
We all need to keep it together.
Oh, I'm keeping it together. Don't you worry, Captain.
He's making noises again. Did you give him his meds before, Anya?
No. Must have slipped my mind. I'm sorry. I'll
do it.
No, really. I'm perfectly okay.
I said I'll do it. Now, as we barge in, Anya stops talking. About what? Well, we don't know. But I think she wanted to talk only to Swansea, as she doesn't really seem to actually like Jimmy at all, and Daisuke is probably a bit immature, and from context clues, this seems to be a serious conversation. And the problem that she's having, she wants to talk to Swansea about it, as he is the oldest and probably the most mature about it, and she felt the most comfortable talking to him. But, as we said, Curly needs his medication. As we're giving Curly his meds, Jimmy says some rather interesting things to Curly. Come on, stop with the noise.
Damn it. I know what everyone's thinking. The way they look at me. What could I even say? And then, what would she do? Damn it. Here we are now. Me in the driver's seat. Thanks for that.
Open up. Hope these make you feel fucking better. And some more noises. And let's have another episode.
We should have some.
Why? It's mediocre at best, obviously.
Sometimes you can only get the subpar stuff. That's what makes the really good stuff. Well, good, right?
Why bother?
Hey, we all tried to escape. Didn't work for any of us. I thought many times, is this what peace? It was like, and this is good enough. If I'm being real, it certainly isn't the best. So all I can do is try to make my life one I'm not trying to run from all the time. Sometimes I'll be promoted, buy a house, fall in love. Other times I'll just have some awful fucking cake with my friend right now. That sounds brilliant. Yeah, so if you'll do the honors.
Right. Well, let me go find a knife. And now we have to find a knife to cut the cake. But the lounge, as you can see, is in rather quite a bit of mess, with bottles of mouthwash piled everywhere, blocking doorways that were once we could access, and even just everywhere else, covering lights and pipes and everything. And to me, it kind of shows a scary potential future, with the crew only having the mouthwash to live on. They would have to drink hundreds of the bottles to even survive. We eventually find the axe planted into the chair of the captain, the seat Curly was sitting in earlier when we were playing as him, and we take the axe and now we feast. But not on cake, instead Curly. We take the axe and We now return to 2 months after the crash, with us having to check on each of the crew. Daisuke is on the ground, completely drunk, with him talking about how his family found this internship for him and that he was apparently a bit of a slacker in his life, with him giving us the mouthwash he had in his hand as he's probably had a bit too much to drink. Anya at the table in the lounge debating if she should drink the mouthwash as she's getting potentially a bit hungry and there's no food left, and informing Jimmy that there is some more medicine for Curly, which they have run out of, inside the foam just outside the medical bay. And they may be able to access it, but there is a potential danger with them potentially compromising the ship's hull and, of course, being sucked into space. So, of course, we decide that we do need to get these painkillers for Curly, as we are still keeping him alive, so we need to get the axe. And who has the axe? Well, Swansea has the axe, and he's having a bit of a boogie, obviously having a bit too much to drink, and we ask him for the axe, and Jimmy calls rank on him to get the axe off of him. Now, Swansea here makes it very clear that he does no respect for Jimmy at all, calling him Capitano again in a mocking fashion and asking if he's going to get the rest of the crew killed with his great plan that he set out. Jimmy obviously doesn't like this and just asks him to be useful and give him the axe.
And Jimmy takes the axe and we can now retrieve the medicine, which we can now use to give to Curly. And then we give Curly his meds, as Anya still feels uncomfortable doing it. Now, Jimmy isn't happy about this and lays it into her, talking about how he has to do everything from retrieve the codex scanner to give Curly his meds to get the axe, and in his words, he's trying to fix the problem. But is he? He hasn't honestly really done anything of note to actually attempt to fix the situation that they are currently in. There's been no attempts to actually repair the ship at all or even get any sort of communications out of it. All we've really done is open the cargo hold and sit around and give Curly his medications. That's all Jimmy has actually done to try fix the situation they're in, and to me, it might show that he is potentially quite a weak leader and not very smart in general. But let's give Curly his meds. I don't think I understood the pressure you were under before. Fuck, you tried to warn me. Our worst moments don't make us monsters, huh? You were a good captain, Curly, and you'll be one again. I'll get us both through this. Now, to me, this shows that Jimmy has learned that the reason Curly wanted to leave the job wasn't due to what he said earlier, the people, but due to the stress of actually working as a captain on this ship, having to basically maintain everything and make sure everyone was doing their jobs properly and was also happy and not wanting to kill themselves. And unfortunately, Jimmy has learned the hard way that it's not as easy as Curly was making it out to be. He was just that good at the job. 6 hours till judgment. Wait, are we having another episode?
Jimmy, get the fuck out here.
Now, Swansea does not seem too happy at all with him banging on the door to get in, and once you turn around, you now realise that you're no longer in the medical bay, you're in the cockpit. So you go into your inventory and there's nothing there except question mark, question mark, question mark. My hands won't stop shaking. What is this thing? Well, who cares? Swansea seems dangerous and we need to protect ourselves. So let's grab some rope.
You can't hide.
Tie the door down. With the door being tied down, it still does not seem enough to keep Swansea out. So Jimmy grabs the metal pipe.
I'm gonna chop you into 20 fucking pieces.
Once we place the pipe, Swansea breaks through the door and tries to get into the cockpit, but it... 2 days before the crash. You doing okay?
Yeah, can't sleep.
I know how that is. I just toss and turn, or stare at the ceiling all night.
I actually like the nighttime window screen, if you can believe it. So I just come look at it sometimes. If you look really, really close, you can see there's a dead pixel in the upper right corner.
That's so? Nope, don't see it.
In the back of my mind, it's always there.
Now I'll go bonkers looking for it. Cheers. I don't think it ruins the illusion though. It's peaceful, but maybe I'm just used to looking at the bigger picture.
How many days of transport do we have left?
Let's see. Off the top of my head, around 237 days. Just under
8 months. Hey, why do you think Pony Express put a lock on the medical room door, but not in the sleeping quarters?
I suppose for the same reason they put a lock on the cockpit. Safety. Now, this conversation is amazing in general. It gives 2 completely different interpretations of when you were actually viewing it, before you beat the game and after you beat the game. Now, if you haven't beaten the game, and as I'm talking about this game I have, and looking back in this conversation, it's kind of crazy how well written it is, but I won't spoil it. If this is your first experience, this scene plays out like someone who might miss home and questions the strange decisions that the company Pony Express has made on the ship, such as the placement of locks. But remember, this scene tells a much darker tale as we pull the curtain back further. But as we're looking at it now, why wouldn't there be locks in the bedrooms? Well, there could potentially be safety clauses there. If someone went to sleep and they were having problems while they sleep, being able to actually get into it would be something good. And then having the locks on the cockpit and the medical bay, yes, for safety, preventing people from getting into the medical bay where people might be injured or sick, and the cockpit to prevent people from crashing it. But we know how that turned out. We now continue the story though, 4 months after the crash. So we are now back to the present day at 4 months. We started the game at 2 months after the crash, and now we are 2 months after that. And things have gotten much more desperate. Daisuke comes to Jimmy asking for help, explaining that Anya is trapped in the medical bay. So we go over to the medical bay, but we quickly learn that it isn't stuck. but she has intentionally locked herself in, and she threatens that what she's about to do will not be her worst moment. Now, when I read this initially, I thought she was going to kill herself. Okay, now it is going to get a lot, and I mean a lot worse now, so be warned. Daisuke tells us of a vent which connects to the medical from utility, but Swansea is guarding it and looks a little worse for wear, and he refuses to let the two enter the utility room. And we cut to 8 hours before judgment and 2 hours before when we saw Swansea attacking Jimmy, and Daisuke looks really bad, and Jimmy is losing it. Don't do anything. Stop, stop, stop. I can fix this. Why do you keep fucking saying that? Are you hearing yourself? I'm sorry. We still have the disinfectant, right? The one from the extra medical stash? Get it now. The cocktail. The cocktail? What are you blabbering about? That was your fault. You would never have. I had no choice. You useless. Goddamn fucking idiot. There has to be something else. Okay, so this is a bit of whiplash, obviously, but as we can see, Daisuke is in a pretty bad state, and the disinfectant you can find in the medical stash earlier when you opened it was used to create a cocktail of some sort for Swansea. Why? We don't know yet, but one thing that could have helped Daisuke was wasted on something so stupid as a cocktail, and Swansea is pissed, and rightfully so. The so-called captain of the ship now could not see past the current events and how his actions now would cause further problems in the future, as him messing around with very limited supplies has now caused some serious issues for them. So now we have to find some disinfectant. Now we can enter the medical bay to look, but for some reason the screen is obscuring something we are not meant to see yet. However, there isn't any disinfectant in the medical bay. Now, I looked also in the kitchen through the recipe book and to see if there was anything listed here that could be used as a disinfectant. And what do you know? There's a recipe for a mocktail, and the ingredients are crossed out and replaced with isopropyl, which was the disinfectant that we found, and mouthwash. So yes, Jimmy or someone made a mocktail with medical grade isopropyl and the mouthwash they have been drinking. And there it is again, the name of the game, mouthwash. Now, I looked everywhere for some sort of disinfectant, but trying to go to the cockpit, you are told to take responsibility and you are guided back on a certain path towards the cargo hold, where Jimmy has another episode, with him going down a staircase with some spooky noises occurring. And something else is down there with you. Make too much noise and you'll meet the giant ghost horse monster. Making it to the end, we find a Polly holding a single bottle of mouthwash, the only thing that is even left on the ship that could potentially be used as a disinfectant. But stated earlier by Anya, it isn't effective at being a disinfectant. The sugar content would make it useless, but Jimmy, being the idiot he actually is, he still decides to use it, and well, let's hear some words from some happy customers. And we cut again to 3 months after the crash, with now seeing what happened to Daisuke and also the isopropyl. Now Jimmy and Daisuke talk about how to get to the medical room, and Jimmy convinces Daisuke that they need to get into the medical room, despite its danger, as we saw earlier from the foam being deployed on Daisuke. So we give Swansea the drink that was basically just discovered that we made, the isopropyl cocktail, and when we give him the drink, he lays into Jimmy, talking about how much of a failure he is and how bad he is at being a captain, and they probably are all dead, and warns Daisuke of following his life path. If only he had said this before the trip even started. So Swansea drinks in and we knock him out. Allowing us into the utility room, and inside we find that there is barely any foam inside, which now means that the entire time Swansea was preventing Jimmy from entering, he was actually lying about the state of the room. And we see some cryostasis pods which could have been used to keep the crew alive for 20 plus years if they ran out of food, but only one is available. Now Jimmy takes this and thinks that Swansea was waiting for everyone else on the ship to die of starvation and then would use the cryostasis pod to basically survive for 20 years and then unfreeze himself. Now Daisuke believes that Swansea cleared all the foam himself, which honestly he might have done. It's been 4 months, but Jimmy believes otherwise, thinking that he was being a little bit of a troll. Now what do I think? Well, I don't think Swansea had any ill will. I honestly think Swansea probably cleared the entire room of the foam, but the reason he hasn't done it is because I don't think he wants to skip forward 20 years. Swansea has kids, and I don't think he wants to lose 20 years of their lives and his life just to keep himself alive. I think he'd rather die than lose the life that he once had, as he seems to be a man that does love his life and doesn't really want to just throw it away. But enough of that, we need to get to the medical room. So, the vent. This is something that is dangerous. We saw it earlier, but Jimmy still forces Daisuke to go into the vent despite the previous experience with them. Now, if Jimmy was a good captain, he would have done it himself. So he forces Daisuke into it, and it all goes well until we hear a loud bang, and it doesn't. Anya? What did you do? And he opens the door for us. But before that, we cut to one day before the crash with the objective to find the gun. Wait, what's happening? Now, let's just pause real quick. I want to go back. So the vent is a big moment in this game for me. And I think this is when, to me, it fully flips that Jimmy is not a good person. This is when Jimmy is basically revealed to be completely mentally unstable. He's having multiple episodes back to back to back. And I think every episode that we have seen has been Jimmy. Even the one before we did the psych eval with him. I think the game subtly switches us to make us believe that it's Curly, but I think it's Jimmy the whole time. And that means the take responsibility line is on him. But what does he need to take responsibility for? Well, he's not being a very good captain at the moment, so it could be that, but I don't know. It seems a bit light to me at the moment. So let's keep going. Wandering the ship for a bit, you'll eventually find yourself in the cockpit with Anya on the ground in tears. For fuck's sake, where is it? Us being let go isn't a reason to hurt yourself. As our nurse, you never got psych evals. I should have thought of that. You could have come to me if you were feeling stressed. What would you have done? Anything. Anything. You, the crew, are all my responsibility. I told you so. Over and over. Yeah?
I'm not going to hurt myself. You know the gun is in a safety case. I can't open it, but I hit the case itself.
Tell me where it is. None of this has to be on our performance log. We'll figure it out together.
I'm pregnant.
You're what? Who would you...
Captain, I told you.
Listen to me. We can fix this. I've known him for a long time. I'll talk to him.
I know you'd never given me the gun to protect myself, so the least I can do is make sure he never gets it either.
Boy, this hit me like a fucking truck when I first played it. I was expecting it to go down this road at some point, but still, this point, it comes out of nowhere, man, and it still hits so hard. So Anya is pregnant, and from the conversation, we can interpret it that it's Jimmy, as Jimmy is sort of Curly's friend that he's known for a long time, and he is the father of Anya's unborn child. But why is she so scared of him? If they got close enough to, you know, bake bread, why is she so scared of him? Well, because they aren't. And it's very clear that Jimmy, this is horrific and completely puts Jimmy's character into question now. He's the captain of the ship and he raped the only woman on board. So what kind of man is he? And earlier, as I said, the conversation with Curly and Anya in the nighttime lounge room puts into perspective the reason she was questioning why there were no locks on the bedroom doors was because Jimmy raped her. He came in and he did what he wanted and there was nothing she could have done about it. Also, something kind of fun in the cockpit is a note is in the printer and it mentions that an asteroid belt that we crashed into at the start of the game is coming up, as this is the day before the crash. So Curly goes and has a chat with Jimmy, and 6 hours until judgment. Well, we're now back here. Daisuke is still breathing, but his bleeding will not stop. With the mouthwash, as Anya said earlier, would be worthless, and if anything, made things even worse, with him being in extreme pain now. With Jimmy panicking, trying his hardest to possibly fix the situation, Swansea sees the situation they are in, and they are going to die no matter what, be it from starvation, loss of oxygen, or the pure incompetence from Jimmy. So Swansea does something that may seem out of character for him, but honestly it is in character for him and makes him a hero. Swansea puts Daisuke out of his misery with one swift axe blow to the head. The death of Daisuke represents that the hope of the group has gone.
each character represents something for the crew. Curly was the strong leader and the glue that held everything together. With him out of the commission, everything falls apart. Daisuke, the light at the end of the tunnel, the unwavering hope and joy. With him being snuffed out, no characters now have any hope left in the world. And Swansea killing someone he saw as his son. And Jimmy calls him a monster, blaming him for all the problems on the ship. And Swansea very quickly corrects him that keeping him alive was the inhumane thing to do, unlike what Jimmy is currently doing with Curly, which he should have killed him months ago. Even after the crash, they should have put him out of his misery. And to me, Swansea would have made the better captain out of the two. And now we find out that Swansea knows what Jimmy did to Anya, but we still need to get the gun. So going to medical room, we now see what was behind that blur from earlier. It's Anya. She overdosed on pills to kill herself as she couldn't deal with what Jimmy was doing to her anymore. Anya is the most pure-hearted character in this entire game. Even after what Jimmy did to her, she still doesn't hate him, but he constantly abuses her and berates her, and she eventually breaks in the end, with it being made very apparent to her there is no hope left. After the cargo being revealed to be mouthwash, there was nothing left. And with her, unfortunately, starting to show signs of pregnancy, as it had been over 4 months, meaning that yes, she was getting well into her pregnancy now. She probably didn't want to deal with it anymore, and unfortunately, she lost it. Curly saying earlier that she never had her own psyche evals done, that she was there to keep everyone in place mentally. And with her death, not only does it represent that the pure-hearted, kindest characters have died and the kindness in the group that they had before is gone, but also mentally they are gone. So we retrieve the code for the gun case and we get the gun, and Curly finds it rather amusing. This is the first time Curly has made a noise other than breathing, screaming, in pain, anything. This to me shows that Curly is still there. He is still mentally able to perceive things. He is not a vegetable. He's still there. And I think that kind of highlights even more of the horror that Jimmy is keeping him alive. And what's sad is the gun that Anya tried her hardest to keep from Jimmy, in the end, it only gave him the ability to get it by her moving it to this location. Jimmy! Swansea has now chosen violence, and we now come back to where we were before at 6 hours. But before that, we cut to the day of the crash with Anya on the ground in medical, with her having told Jimmy she is pregnant, and apparently he completely blanked her and walked off not saying a word. And Curly obviously sees a problem with this, rushing to the cockpit to prevent him from doing something stupid, but he's waiting outside. Jim, I can fix this. What do you think will happen when we get back? We can figure all this out, you and me. All I ever hear about is how great of a leader you are. God, it is so annoying. But now, what do you think will happen now when we get back? We'll fix this together. Everything you and I worked for in our lives, accomplishments, changes, none of it will matter. You've gone through difficult situations before. This time won't be any different. Work through it one day at a time. It's not just me, is it? You were supposed to be the one who had everything under control. You said so yourself. This ship, this crew, everything that happened here. This was your responsibility, Captain. This is what you'll be hearing the rest of your life. Or this can all be remembered as a tragedy, despite what must have been the best efforts of its acclaimed captain. The Tulpar crew was never found. No one survived to tell the tale. You're standing at the top, feet in cement. I get it now, right? Right. I'll take care of it. Even now, when Jimmy is confronted with something he has to take responsibility for, his own unborn child, he blames everyone else and says it's actually the captain's responsibility and it's his fault that he allowed Jimmy to rape Anya and get her pregnant, and that he himself cannot be blamed for his actions. Obviously, Jimmy is the worst kind of person that can even be imagined here, and I hate to say it, he is a really good character. The writing here is done so well, and Curly and Jimmy are complete polar opposites. One is a good man and the other is the worst possible man. Now, as we heard Jimmy say, there are two things that they could do here. There are two things that they could do to fix this situation.
he can either take responsibility and basically have to force to live the life that he has made for himself, being a father now and having to take care of Anya as well, probably, if he's a good man. Or, as he says, to create a tragedy and no one survives. And this is his version of taking responsibility. And now it is fully revealed. Jimmy is the one responsible for directing the ship towards the asteroid, and he is directly responsible for every single death that occurs on the toolbar. And Curly, being the good man he is, he selflessly diverts the ship to prevent a catastrophic crash which severely wounds him, which we see throughout the entire game, but in the process, he does save everyone else from the initial death. These two, Jimmy and Curly, are friends, but they are complete opposites, as I said, where one connects and is sympathetic, the other is cold, distant, and belittling. One a good leader, one a poor leader. One beloved, the other loathed. And in the end, only one of them is truly the captain, and it was Curly, with Jimmy basically making the entire story up. And the real reason he crashed the ship is he didn't want to face the fact that he now has to take care of a child and has actual responsibilities in his life, but also the punishment he will most likely receive for raping Anya. And also, companies don't like workers having relationships with each other. It's just a thing that exists. And this is probably why he didn't want to return to Earth. We now cut back to 1 hour before Judgment with Curly in our arms now, and we walk him to the lounge and everyone else is dead on the table, and Jimmy has now completely lost it, with everyone dead except him and Curly, and him playing house basically, with him using everyone's dead bodies as basically dolls, with him creating a fantasy about him being a captain and having to give a speech, just like Curly did on his birthday. But instead of cake, there is Curly, with Jimmy eating him, with some horrific noises occurring. And even now, Jimmy blames Curly for the way his life has turned out. Still, even now, after multiple times that we see in the game where he's being told to take responsibility, he is not taking responsibility for his actions. But Jimmy must take responsibility. Now, here, to me, this section represents Jimmy's mind completely breaking from the actions he's done. Him having to face what he's done and what his life is basically caused, and the things he has to take responsibility for have now completely played his mind and basically jumbled his brain up, and he loses it. This entire next section is all one long episode. So yeah, it's going to get pretty deep here and very symbolic. So the entire next part of the game is in Le Head. We maneuver through some vents, following lights, finding Daisuke who disappears. We find a note that says no turning back, which Jimmy cannot actually turn away from this note when you try to walk away from it, because if you do, you get reset. So the only way to actually progress this part is to face the note and walk backwards, which kind of symbolizes that Jimmy can no longer turn away from what he's done, and he has to sort of face the facts now, which is such a cool narrative piece and a great way to tell a story through gameplay and not through writing, which this game has relied a lot on, which is writing. But this is the first time it used gameplay to tell narrative, and it does it so well. And then if you do it enough times walking backwards, you are transported into another hallway on the ship, and we get some great visuals here of the game and the world in general, with us falling down a massive hole, further emphasizing Jimmy's fall in his mental state, eventually coming to a vent surrounded by the axes, which allows us to venture deeper into Jimmy's mind. We find Swansea tied up with a gun placed in front of him, and your only option is to shoot him. Once the trigger is pulled, you are transported to a graveyard with Swansea hunting Jimmy down with an axe, and he honestly is a bit annoying here and is actually pretty hard to get, as he's pretty sneaky for a large man. In the graveyard, you see the graves for Daisuke, and I think Anya might be here as well, but I couldn't find her. She might be. But I think this to me shows that Jimmy does grieve these people's death, and he does see them as friends, but I don't think he realizes he's responsible for their deaths. But once you put a couple bullets in him, you're treated to the best scene in the entire game. I have something to say. So shut the fuck up and listen. I spent 13 years half cut up to my eyeballs, drunk to put it mildly. Then suddenly I saw it, a street light shining in my face,
500 gigawatts of the power of God. A vision of my bloated belly found in some ditch. Scared me straight. So I got a collar shirt, mortgage, and a credit card. All the things that make a good man. I hoped I could raise my children to be better than their old man. I wanted to believe I was never one setback away from my worst self. But the truth is, discipline, drive, routine, endless fucking desperation to get shit done. A loving wife, great kids, sobriety. I'm telling you. You. Accomplishments I've been chasing all my life. Never felt as good as I expected when I crossed the finish line. So now that we're at the end, taking inventory, those nights spinning out of my head, sinking into the sofa, broken glass in my palms, bleeding dry, the funniest thing ever. Old dogs laughing and snarling on the waterbed floor, mocking the moon for daring to show its face. All nausea and wreckage and vomit and ugly cruelty. The only problem in the world, an empty bottle. Those were the best days of my life. Yeah, those were the best days of my life. I've got nothing to hide, ready to face the music. I can see myself where I am now. But you, cowardly, selfish motherfucker, and you can't even see it. I should have been able to protect the kid. If I could have done one right thing, I wish it had been to give him one small chance off this goddamn rock.
Swansea, I'm going to fix everything. We're going to make it.
Fuck you.
I love it that we don't actually see Jimmy shoot Swansea, as we already know he's dead from earlier with the little party scene. And we see that Swansea, despite having a good job, wife, kids, his own house, the American dream, he still isn't happy with it. And he was at his happiest when he was the man that was drunk all the time, going out from a pub probably at 3 in the morning, completely out of his mind. Swansea is amazingly written and probably the best character in this game, with him being what some would call a toxic man, believing that what he just stated was what he needed to be to live a successful life. The traditional man life, working a job he hates to provide for a family that he probably doesn't truly love at the end of the day. And in the end, he accepts that, as he doesn't want to die with a clouded conscience. And his death not being shown, I think, is meant to show a little respect to Swansea. And all the characters are like this. You never actually see any of them die. Anya, she kills herself off screen. Daisuke is the closest one we see die, but it is obscured. So yeah, I think all these people are shown a lot of respect, and their deaths are obscured, retaining their respect and their image, because we don't want to see these good people suffer in this sort of way. With Swansea dead, we now have Jimmy breaking again, hallucinating something similar to what we saw at the beginning of the game, with a big curly heads, what we saw at the beginning of the game. A big curly head, slowly seeing more and more eyes, or Curly's eyes, and eventually we are transported to a flashy tunnel. We exit a big curly head, with the noises you hear while walking out the tunnel being his breathing from the big curly. And in the distance we see a curly bolted to pipes with valves on him, but I took more interest in the funny cartoons on the TV.
Tis old Mother Goose's birthday, we're giving her a party. A party, a party, a party for Mother Goose.
The baker man, he served the cake, it was a sight to see.
But we are prompted to take Curly's leg and feast. Who's feasting? Why, Curly, of course. We are feeding Curly his own fucking leg, and we have a little puzzle to do, which I'll admit took me way too long to figure out. But if you fail it, he throws up his own leg, and I kind of think it shows how morbid this situation is. But eventually you should fully feed Curly his own leg, and turning back to the TV, we see Jimmy walking in space, eventually meeting an on-fire Curly.
I want to go home.
We are home.
Why don't you finish what you started? Don't worry, no one ever finds us. Still be playing the villain. You'll be the better man, and in the end, like you wanted, I could have stopped it. I'm taking responsibility.
No, we can both be heroes. We're a team, just you and me, like we used to be. What happened was an accident. We were trapped.
I made a mistake, alright? I'm sorry. I'm so fucking sorry, Curly. And in the end, even with this revelation from the Curly inside Jimmy's head, and no, this is not the real Curly, as Curly cannot speak, he makes it all up. He makes Curly accept what he did and basically make Jimmy seem like a victim of his own brain. And even after this whole thing that's happened, Jimmy still makes excuses and does not take responsibility for what he did. So now he must take responsibility. We are in a vent and have an ultrasound with a large fleshy mass in front of us. Inspecting it, we find a couple horses, dogs, I don't know what they are, and a baby. Very symbolic, as the baby is the root of all these problems. This baby turning into a monster of Polly's. The baby represents the root of all problems, and with him not taking responsibility of it, the disgusting Polly monster represents the situation that his brain created. Due to him not taking responsibility, it created a disgusting problem that cannot be fixed. So we cut into another event, with the monster thing that looked like the baby now hunting us. And again, very symbolic. The root of the problem being the baby turning into the Polly thing. The monster that is now chasing us is Jimmy's own mind, and it will catch him. But you can escape it, and we find a cool scene of all the bottles falling down the stairs. I just really like this, and I thought it was a really cool visual. And now we are confronted with Polly, who states exactly what Jimmy is thinking, that he feels trapped in his life and has no control over it, but he doesn't take any initiative to improve it. Basically, why Jimmy doesn't move up in life is because he doesn't take initiative, which is very, some people don't. Some people don't have the initiative to take that thing, and it's nothing wrong with him, but it's when he blames others for that. Now, he says he will take responsibility by taking care of Curly, as it isn't too late to make things right, but unfortunately, it is too late for Jimmy. Curly will never recover. The person he should have taken responsibility for was the woman he got pregnant, Anya, but she killed herself because he abandoned her and her child. But hey, Jimmy puts Curly into the cryostasis pod to be frozen for 20 years, just to extend his suffering even further, with Jimmy truly believing what he is doing right now by putting Curly in this pod is what he is meant to take responsibility for. But no, and he cannot take responsibility anymore. Once Anya died, there was no fixing the problem that he made, and he kills himself off screen with a gunshot. And Curly is now being frozen for 20 years, ending the game. Man, this game depresses me, and honestly, this is the kind of stuff I want from indie horror. As you probably saw throughout the entire game, there was probably like 3 jump scares in total: the baby jump scare, the initial Polly jump scare, and the ghost horse. That was it. And for me, none of these jump scares actually caught me. They all felt earned, honestly, and felt fine and in place. And all of these jump scares are enhanced by the psychological horror aspect of the game. This game's horror comes way more from its way of making you feel uncomfortable and isolated and claustrophobic and really sad for these characters. I think Anya is probably the character that I genuinely felt the most horror for, as she was stuck in a situation where she was basically in the hands of the person that committed all these horrific things to her, getting her pregnant and then pushing her away, not accepting that, yes, you did this to me and you're not taking responsibility for it, and now he's leading the entire ship. It's written so well. The actual actions from the characters make you feel so uncomfortable, and the actual situation itself they are in, and even the visuals with some of these sequences where Jimmy is just losing his mind, it feels so oppressive and uncomfortable to sit through, and at times it was hard to actually play through. I'm honestly pretty good with any sort of horror stuff. I've listened to, read, watched some horrific things, and this was one of the worst. This was up there with one of the worst things I've played. Each of the characters are masterfully written and all actually represent something within the story and help to enhance the game even more beyond its own thing. As I've stated, Curly's the leader, Jimmy's meant to represent the evil in the ship, Anya is meant to represent the good, pure-heartedness. Everything good about a person Anya represents, and everything bad that a person represents is Jimmy. Swansea is the old, sort of experienced person, and Daisuke is the young, excited sort of person. That's what they all represent. And when each one dies, that gets lost. So yeah, I love it. It's so good. The story being told, I had to learn this word, anachronic, in an anachronic order, meaning completely out of order, actually helps to enhance the story even more, as it sells the idea of Jimmy, the character that tells the story, is completely losing his mind and it's breaking. The story itself is breaking, and it all being from the perspective of Jimmy means that the game has an unreliable narrator in general. Jimmy lied in the first point of the game, with him lying to everyone, so what if all of these aren't real? Unfortunately, they probably are real, and all these people are probably dead, including Curly. Who's to say that it was Swansea that killed Daisuke, for example, and not Jimmy? This is something I saw online, but honestly, I think it makes more sense for Swansea to kill Daisuke, as to me, it shows that Swansea was honestly the most sane person there and accepted the situation they were in and was a better leader. If Jimmy killed Daisuke, it wouldn't make much narrative sense to me, personally. Jimmy being an unreliable narrator actually enhances this game so much more because it makes you question every single thing that happens in the game. Anyone could play this game and can take different messages and take different interpretations from it all the time, and I really do encourage you to experience this game for yourself. Now, you may be asking, why is it called Mouthwashing? Well, if it isn't obvious, the mouthwash. When it says 4 months after the crash as well, that's the point when they stated they would run out of food. So now, all that was fueling them was the mouthwash, which took a mental toll on all of them and was probably the reason that Anya killed herself. She knew that the baby that she might have wanted to actually keep, unfortunately, it would have died from her drinking the alcohol. And that's the problem. That's why she didn't drink it earlier and she wasn't drinking it in general. She honestly might have wanted to have this child, and unfortunately she was basically forced to not have it, so she ended her life. Swansea looked really rough as he was an alcoholic before, so he was abusing the alcohol, and Daisuke's young, so you know, he kind of got a bit drunk. And replaying the game again, its story is enhanced even more with great visual storytelling. When you crash the ship, you sit in the left seat to crash it, which Jimmy sits in the site eval, meaning it was him. Anya, throwing up all the time and feeling sick and nauseous, she's pregnant, so it makes sense. And it means that it might not have been the sight of Curly's suffering, but her pregnancy that was making her sick. Jimmy, throughout the entire game, wants to be in Curly's position, but when he finally is in that position, he is inept and abuses the power that he has over others. And as he said, the captain should be responsible for everything and everyone on the ship. But Jimmy wouldn't even take responsibility for crashing the ship, let alone everything and everyone on it. He wouldn't even take responsibility for his own child. So he's not a good captain. And when Curly does, the whole crew are solid and tells them about what is happening to Pony Express, which shows Curly does care about them, because if he was to follow company guidelines, he would have not told them. But Jimmy spat in the face of this kindness and believed his life was over, but it wasn't. Yes, financially, both Jimmy and Anya, who would both be forced to be in each other's lives due to this child, they weren't financially anything. Anya stated that she had no savings, and we can assume that Jimmy doesn't really have a lot of money in general and probably is newer to the job than Curly. But their lives were not over. But Jimmy couldn't accept this reality and doomed them all, killing a total of 6 people. Anya, Daisuke, Swansea, himself, Curly, eventually after 20 years, and his own unborn child. Curly is an interesting character. It could be interpreted that Curly is a bit selfish of a character. The reason that probably Pony Express did not want people to reveal this information was for a situation like this. The only reason that Jimmy crashed the ship is because he realized that his life was basically going to be completely changed forever, and he would have to basically raise a child and be in Anya's life, be it distant, but to help the child, and he did not want this and he crashed the ship. If Curly didn't share this with Jimmy, it wouldn't have happened. The delivery probably would have gone fine and nothing would have come of it, and they would have all been alive. But unfortunately, this to me is Curly's trait. He is nice to a fault. He is a good person to a fault. He tries to help everyone he can, even if it causes more issues. When he goes and talks to Jimmy, and he tells him that they're going to fix it, but he doesn't push him enough to make him take responsibility and allows him to go into the cockpit and crash the ship. So yeah, this game is amazing. And all of this as well could have been prevented if they all took the psych evaluations a bit more seriously and not made jokes about cartoon horses. This game is amazing, and the team at Wrong Organ have made a seriously good game here that uses the genre of horror to its full effect, but also the gaming medium effectively, creating a truly unique experience for a video game. Croc rating, 5 out of 5. Go play it. It's worth every single penny. It's only 10 quid, and it's great fun. Hey, thanks for watching. I understand this was a bit of a darker game to cover, but I hope you enjoyed for the spooky season. Quick word, thanks for all the recent support again. I feel like I keep saying this. I greatly do appreciate it. And if you want to see more videos like this specifically, leave a like and subscribe. I do plan on continuing to do videos like this in the future, as they are the ones I'm most passionate about. So leave some suggestions for any indie games, be it horror, roguelikes, anything. Genuinely, I will play anything, as long as it's a unique experience, as I'm always looking for stuff to play. Next video, I'll probably be doing Watch Dogs 2, as that's what I wanted to do, because I wanted to do the Watch Dogs franchise. But I'm always up for stuff, and there are definitely some other horror games I've got my eye on that I would not mind doing. So yeah, definitely make it known if you want to see more stuff like this, because I do appreciate any comments, anything. It's always nice to see. Again, thank you for watching. That's enough waffling from me. See you around. Crocodile.